Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan.
One of the most listened to or watched episodes on the CoBB was this called Measure What You Treasure. And when people reach out to us, as often as they do, the biggest question we asked is, how do I understand my consumer? You're talking about it as if it's so easy. So how do I actually do it? We've kind of gone into detail across multiple episodes for how entrepreneurs and marketers and advertising professionals can actually understand their customers better. But we thought we'll do one better than that and have somebody who is kind of one of the pioneering leaders in the industry of market research, consumer research, and brand work to come and talk to us today. So this is the CEO of Ormax Compass, Priya Lobo. Welcome to the show, Priya.
Hey, I'm delighted, and I think it's a favorite topic. And I think I always say I'm forever a researcher because I see it so differently. Yeah, because you're always researching, always digging deep into consumer behavior.
So excellent. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show, Priya. As we usually do, we try to make our guests feel comfortable at the start and possibly uncomfortable as we go along, because we also like to dig deeper. So, we'd like to start by first talking to you about the topic that is dearest to your heart, which is market research. So, Priya, in various forums, Sharan and I have tried to explain market research to a lot of people who are new to it. So, I'd like to ask the same question to you. How do you explain market research and its importance to, say, an online startup business owner?
Yeah. So the way I think of it is not online and offline. I don't make these separations, first of all, because they're very artificial. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have only one reality, that you are making a product and that product has to be used by someone, right? Which is your user or your consumer. And you can only make a product that will satisfy the need of a consumer. So I say great product, first work on your product, which is a great product. And if that product is so good, go and meet your consumer to see if that solves for a pain point. Because you can only solve for real needs and not phantom needs. And that cuts across the chase, whether it's online, offline, startup, not startup, FMCG, non-FMCG. It just keeps it so simple, because you cannot make a product which says it is for everyone. Therefore, defining the consumer's mindset, making a great product that satisfies a real need and solves for a pain point is the way research needs to be used. And that's my simple answer.
Okay. So let me rephrase that question then, Priya. When businesses are starting out, they're building their brand, they say we don't have enough money for market research. And even in large companies, when there is a budget crunch, or the first thing they cut is market research. One, how do you react to this? And two, how do you think people should be approaching this, especially in the startup world?
So I work with a lot of startups, and often, this was just last week, I made the proposal, it was bang on. And then she said, my God, I didn't think market research costs so much. Jaw fell when she looked at the number. I said, hang on, first let's separate the two. First, is this what you required? Do you see value in this process first? And yes, she did. Then I said, okay, one thing that the MD and the chairman, Mr. Wispy Doctor, taught me very, very early on, Sharan and Sudeep, is that budgets are your reality, correct? Everybody has a budget. So I said, what is your budget? Beyond a certain point, I will not do this, because I don't think so. We can cut down the design. For me to give you an answer in a direction, I need to do this, correct? Now come back and tell me what you can. What is your budget? And once she shared that, I worked out the design and we are going to start work. And the next discussion was about your products, her products. I said, when can you get the products ready? We will talk about it when you get it ready. I had that conversation with her on Friday. It will take 4 weeks and we're ready to start in June. So there's
Oh, nice.
always
I
a
love
way,
this.
always a way if you want to, right?
Excellent. No, I love this example. It kind of tells a lot of the startup business owners that, uh, they must hence have the mandate as well as the budget in mind.
Hmm.
And provided they are able to provide clarity on both, their partner on the other side should be able to work out something for them,
Yeah.
as long as it is above a certain minimum budget that is required to really do justice to the mandate.
Correct. And can I add a caveat to that? Because whenever people come to Ormax, correct, we are a company who is like close to 30 years old, correct?
Hmm.
We come with a
Hmm.
credibility. And they immediately say, you have clients like Levi's, you work with Mondelez, you are very expensive. Hang on. I said, that's not what I want you to tell me. I want you to
Hmm.
tell me first whether you're committed, you want to work. Do you really want to get a great product out? Because I believe in it.
Hmm.
And therefore, do you want to work it out or no? It has to be win-win to both parties. It can never be unfair at any point of time. And that's my philosophy, and it has worked out. And if it doesn't work out, you'll come back to me at some other point of time. It's not that you don't have the money. You just didn't recognize that you need to do this at this stage of time, right? Why would you do it after 4 years and blow some more X amount of money and then say, oh my God, what's happening to me? So I get right to the heart of the matter, and that's fine. It works out always.
Right.
Nice.
So, in just a follow up on that, Priya, when somebody's starting out their business, right? So, I get the point saying don't do it 4 years later, do it at the beginning. At the beginning is when they don't really have any money to spend. What is there anything they can do DIY stuff to get the market research? One, and two, what should the objective be at the start? What should then check for?
So what I would suggest, yeah, if you're bootstrap, right, it's your own money that you're putting in. Highest risk and trial and error, failure, all that is being thought about, fail fast, what fail fast, rise early, whatever. Sorry, I don't remember those phases. But why would you risk your money and put in more and more without having some kind of alignment with the consumer? Correct? There are ways to do it. I am more than happy to teach these bootstrap startup entrepreneurs how to at least have a conversation with the consumer. I'll do it pro bono. I don't have a hassle with that. But later on, please put money, because nothing. See, I always believe there are no free lunches. Whenever you get something free, there's no value. At some point of your a journey of the brand, you need your value proposition. You need to, you would have tried out several things, right? But that's the time to just prune in. That's the time to say, what are you going to go after? And may I share an example, which will be super helpful? And I'm glad, Sharavan, you asked this question, because sometimes we forget what we do, correct? So when Urban Clap, now it's called Urban Company, when they were just in the initial parts of the journey, a dear friend Sohail Vadgaonkar joined them. Young, bright-eyed, bushy, and he said, Priya, I can't afford you. So I said, okay, but you can give me a Starbucks coffee, right? At a cup of a coffee we can meet. But let me share how you should be looking at your concepts. What are you putting out? And that continued for 3 to 4 years. Because we just liked each other's company. I just thought it was a great brand doing something which would address a pain point, correct? And they did a lot of trial and errors. One of the famous vertical was the home parlor for women, correct? And they tried several others, I know, in that journey, some photography thing and this and that. Then while we were doing that, finally when they reached a stage of 4 years, they wanted to get the value proposition right. Who do you think they would consider?
Hmm.
Ormax and Priya Lobo. I was already invested in the brand. And who were
Nice.
the other people? Of course, the big guys, the big agencies that people always want on board, correct? When they decided their value proposition and they wanted to work, they decided to work with us because we already knew about the brand. But what was interesting is we were able to not only go back and tell them who's their consumer, what they should focus on from a business lens. And that business of the home parlor has grown exponentially. The other thing we realize is very small, small things, right? Your sofa cleaning, which is a big pain. Your bathroom cleaning, your entire, I would say, is you need someone to come and do all these small, small things, correct?
Right.
Like a carpenter coming and putting up your paintings. And what we said is you're so good at these small, small things, which are like really things that get people worked up. You are that. Like one of the things we told them is what happens if, you have a plumbing issue and your tap bursts in the night? You don't have anybody to come.
Hmm.
And that's when the founder said, let me put in an emergency service. Okay. People can pay a little extra for it, but we'll make sure that we help them out with that. So things got clearer for the founders, for the marketing guys, the communication guys. So when you ask me what I create the foundation for your business and your brand. I create the seminal work. You can use it. We call it the category Bible. And this word was christened by none other than our most favorite client and partner, Darshan Bhai, who's the owner of Vinny Cosmetics and Fog. He said, Priya, I've worked with him for the longest, right? I've grown up literally. And he said, you create the category Bible for me. You create the understanding. You create the foundation. I'm building the body of understanding. And that's what you would like, right? Somebody who's taken the pains to understand the category and the consumers and the competition landscape. And then
Right.
you're poised for success.
No, I love this point, Priya. And, the whole thing about you as a partner who is investing upfront into developing that understanding
Correct.
and thereby making yourself an integral part of their, journey forward whenever they decide to take the next big leap. So, Priya, not everybody has access to you. So there are startup owners who are listening to us who will, this will spark thoughts in their head as to what they can do, or
Yes.
what are the questions that they should ask any research partner that they come across,
Hmm.
such that it can help them start their journey, and hopefully put them on this path of maybe someday creating a category bible that can help them put some brand philosophies in place. What are the key questions they should ask?
I think a step before that, so before they go to the research partner, I think they should put in some thinking effort
Hmm.
as to who is their consumer. That's a very difficult question to answer. The other one, which is far more difficult, which I feel is what's their business? Can you define your business? And defining the business is not about the product, the physical product sometimes, right? What are you doing? Why did you decide to create this and not something else? Correct? These two questions become important because when you go to a research partner, they're going to ask you the same questions because you have to design the brief. You have to give a brief. And then you say, I don't know how to give a brief. The simplest things I tell a lot of startups and founders who have never done this is, it's my job to help you create the brief. Don't do it. You were not born doing this, correct? Right? So what you do is you just tell me what you have in mind. We'll have a 1-hour conversation. And after that, you can put it on a Word document, take it out and pour your life's thoughts into that. It's my job to help you. And if your research partner can't do that for you, say tata, bye-bye. Because then it's not a win-win ever. They don't know how to work with startups and founders. Or you find somebody who can really help you out.
Okay. Fair enough. It's about having clarity on what business you're doing and who you're doing it for.
Hmm.
And these two questions actually bring down a lot of clarity on how to run your business.
Can I make it more simpler? Which
Yes,
in
please.
fact, I write it in my proposals. First of all, who am I?
Hmm.
Who am I means what business, right?
Yeah.
Kaun hu main? The second one is what role do I play? Fancy one, which people like all this fancy stuff, is the job or what are they hiring you for? So role that you play and what is the job that they're hiring for? Answer that. If maybe the first round you can ask your partner to help you with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, that person is far more poised when they go for the meeting. They have a little more clarity when they are going in for something.
So one thing I hear very often with startup founders is that I have run a survey of 20 people and they all agree with this proposition. So there is qualitative research, there is quantitative research. What kind of work or explorations need qualitative, quantitative, and what makes them substantiative? Is 20 people enough to make a decision on if you've run a survey with your family and friends?
You stole the words from my mouth. That survey, family and friends, people who love you. You're not making it for them, correct? And I don't think so they like it when you tell them that. So the only way to do these things is ask them the hard questions. If you ever have heard of BBC Hard Talk, Tim Sebastian, used to love that show. In fact, what was that hard talk about? Correct?
Mhm.
You're just getting it down to the heart of the matter. When you start asking who these 20 people are, they might have done it just to get a sense, right? But those are the guys who are not going to pay the money for your product later on. Have you gone to real consumers with real needs? Yeah? Then we are talking. Now, is 20 enough? Let me answer that question. I feel that when you're exploring behavior, understanding the why, who is this person, the mindset, then I would suggest qualitative research because that helps you with your marketing, your communication, how the person is really going to use the product, right?
Mhm.
And then if you choose carefully what is 10, what is 15, what is 20. Below a particular number, I would not go depending on what age groups I'm talking about, correct? There is research design. It's a scientific process. So if I'm talking to male and female, younger and older, and depending on what that is, I really need to make sure that I'm talking to enough people for me to tell you that you're on the right track.
Okay.
Right? And that's the design. And that's what you need to make sure as a research partner or somebody who's been in this business for long to suggest the right methodology. Yeah. So it's not about the number, it's about who are you meeting and what you need to do.
Okay.
Now let's come to this whole, first of all, this survey word is also wrong. We can't help it. So I've stopped getting angry. I've stopped reacting. I think with age, you get more calmer.
The disgust in your face is palpable.
Yeah. So you can't fault people who haven't done it, right? So why go that route, which is not important. But let's talk about quantitative research. Once I've got everything, if I need to describe that reality, that how many people use a shampoo, how many times, what will happen, all of that, you need to quantify. So one needs to understand why I want to quantify in the first place, correct? I've heard things like that, and I'm sure you guys have heard also, right? Arey, we're going for funding, second round, first round. We don't have any numbers and 30 people and all of that. Nobody's going to listen to us. Yes. Okay, fine. We'll help you build the right, I would say, impact or the right report. Okay. I understand the challenges. I understand how the ecosystem works because I have a lot of PE friends and VC friends. And I do work with them. So I understand the ecosystem. And once I understand the ecosystem, Sudeep and Sharan, then my whatever say method to help you out becomes so much more easier because I understand the ecosystem. I need to prep you up for that. Nobody after Ormax has worked on it. Ormax is the signing authority, and Ormax has that credibility in the industry, right? So you're doing the right thing for your brand. We help you prep up so that, of course, funding is reality. You need to do that. And therefore, why would you not work with the right partner who understands the ecosystem, who's setting you up for success, as I would call it? I always work from a win-win proposition.
Okay,
Right.
excellent. In fact, whenever we've been posed this question in the past, we have said that qualitative, like you rightfully said, when you want to describe them, when you want to get deeper,
Explore.
and quant one is where when you have to build conviction in management or VC circles, etc., when you have to give them numbers, like you rightfully said. So that's our standard answer also, and possibly
Yes.
that is how it works.
See, one thing I've realized is why fight a system, correct?
Hmm.
Wi-Fi assist. I'll give you the example of the Bombay Shirt Company project that I worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, you need numbers. You can't not go past. It's when they're getting funding, they need the numbers. Correct?
Mhm.
First of all, they don't want to do something. Correct? They don't believe research can help them. They know so much. What I can do is that, hey, you are sitting on a database of customers. Let me talk to. And we have to do a certain number because I think that's what your people who are going to invest in you. But why did they come to Ormax? They wanted a third party approval or validation and someone who has done consumer work and who could lend in direction and action and who understands branding. And believe me, at the end of the day, they said, we can't believe that we can get so much value out of having done this research. Therefore, it is not about the money. It's about your intention of saying, what do I need to do right for my brand? They're in the business for 10 years, right? Close to 10 years.
Right.
Now, when you're building it further, you can't afford to say, I'll do what I feel like doing. Consumer also will say, I will do whatever he like doing. I'll go to somebody else, right?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
fair. I think that's a great articulation and a great example. Changing tracks slightly, and I saw this somewhere that you worked on research in the cinema industry.
Yes.
Now, that is something that, number one, most of us and our listeners haven't really dabbled with that industry. And number two, most of
Mhm.
us wouldn't even know that cinema uses research. Yeah, a lot of
Yes.
it is very creative driven and vision driven, etc. So tell us a bit more about, what sort of work have you done in cinema industry? What are the things that we can learn? Uh, a traditional FMCG or a online digital startup can learn from the work that happens there.
Okay. So my experience could be a little dated because when with Ormax Media, we incubated Ormax Media, right? And now Shailesh helms it and he's taken it to new levels altogether. But I remember watching movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never ever done that before. But you said something, the good old FMCG way always works. What is this product? Who is it being made for? Is it relevant? What is the message? Correct? We do concept testing, comms test, all of that. You use that when you're researching movies as well. Correct? And
Right.
who did you make it for? And did that audience even like it?
Hmm.
Is this audience really picking up on the storyline? Yeah. And I like what you said that, such a creative field. But we have the same challenge when we work with ad agencies, don't we?
But ad agencies really have something to sell, right?
Yes.
Movies are there for possibly just entertainment.
No,
And
but
each
somebody has
one's
to sell an idea to somebody, at the end of it, Sharan.
okay. So you are running call research on movies
No,
for
so
the
there,
audience or for
no,
the
there,
production
no.
house?
So there you need to do both quant and qual. You need both numbers. So maybe that's the question that you had, right? The sequence,
Right.
which comes before what? Over there, you would do quant first
Okay.
with large numbers. There you get an indication of what's working or not working. Scene by scene, perhaps sometimes.
So you
You,
have
you,
people watching a movie and giving you feedback on the
yes.
spot.
You book a thing at Famous Studio, at least the early ones that I did. You make them watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You get them to fill this questionnaire.
Okay.
You wait and you almost in real time figure out. Correct?
Okay.
Then you choose from the audience the high scorers and the low scorers. And then you do the qual to texture the data.
Oh.
Now that works very, very well. You don't start with qual. You start with quant and then you do qual. Yeah.
So what's
And
the purpose of the qual after the quant here?
to texture the information. For example, if somebody says, so they've given a score of say low, 2 or 3. Unless you ask them why, you'll never know, right?
Mm.
And that's when they articulate. That's when they're sharing their emotion. That's when they're sharing the thoughts.
Yeah.
And therefore, that works that way. So the sequencing is very important for anything that you do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do a lot of hybrid, when we call this hybrid research, right? Therefore, the quant leads first and then the qual.
Have there
Yeah.
been any movies, Fate, you managed to change? Any insight you found that kind of turned the way a movie was going to be made or made?
I remember this one where we researched Shah Rukh Khan's Ravan. There were many things that happened. First, the recognition that there is a problem
Before the release.
before the release. So, what could they edit, right? We all shoot a little more. So,
Hmm.
what can I edit? If there is something that I can do, what is it that I need to put out in my communication? The sharpness of my story and the messaging.
Mhm.
So, your teasers, your promos. Yeah, now it's gone to a next level, right? Today, you watch the promo and then decide to go for the
Correct.
that art itself is very important. People have realized that you need a trigger, right? To
Hmm.
get you to the theater where, you're paying so much for the ticket today. Yeah. The choices are being made based on that. Yeah.
Right.
And therefore that, I always say that it can help you in many, many ways. Can it make that movie successful? Because sometimes can or cannot. But it also tells you, boss, you might not want to repeat those mistakes later.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's the investment the entire fraternity is making, right? If I don't know whether y'all guys got on Karan Johar in his Coffee with Karan actually mentioned the Ormax Celebrity Report, the media,
Yes.
Ormax Media Celebrity Report. It was not paid for. Nobody told him to do that because he saw that it really added a scientific approach, a
Hmm.
method. Let's use a nicer word, a method to the madness, which I call it.
Hmm.
And therefore, it does benefit. But it has taken Shailesh's understanding of the medium, and he's really into it, which I call
Mhm.
the domain expertise, to create something for that. So, and it has been a 12-year-long journey. And therefore, if you want to give an advice to anybody, nothing happens just like that.
Hmm.
A minimum 10 years to create a brand, right? Another 25 years to stick to the damn positioning.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
That's the
that's
harder
pos-
part.
yeah, and that's possibly something that most of the younger um, generations don't realize. They
Yes.
don't envisage that long, but that's okay. I think
But
they will.
but it's all right. With
Yeah.
nobody can envisage, but one needs to know that it takes. You ask anybody, it takes 10 years to build a brand.
At that point in time, I was managing kids brands in
Mm.
Mondelez.
Mm.
So that was the first movie which was selling their franchise very, very hard before releasing. So
Mm.
they realized that they are not going to make as much money from the audience,
Yes,
and so therefore might as well leverage the equity before the film releases.
correct.
And they got into a lot of toys, a lot of other associated franchises,
Yes.
started giving brand benefits. So I think that's another, idea of saying if the movie is not going to become big, how do I create more revenue channels for myself
Hmm.
Yes.
and build properties, etc., etc.
Yes. And therefore, I feel there's a great value. Yeah.
Mm.
And we have lost count. In fact, was talking to Shailesh, and I think now I think we've lost count of the number of movies, but I definitely the fraternity, which you call very creative, is seeing a value into this approach, which he started off and he really believed in it. Yeah. Therefore, high level of domain expertise to create something is very, very important.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBcast.net.